Okay, so update 17 has arrived, and with it came a whole lot of new content for us to jump right into. So this video might be a little bit long because I'm going to try and cover everything that came in the update, from weapon buffs to new weapons to the parkour 2.0 to certain warframes that got reworks and some got little slight buffs, and so many other great stuff that came with the update for us to have fun with. Now, of course, with the update came our newest frame, Equinox, which is our so-called yin-yang frame, which can switch between two forms, a kind of support healing type of frame and a damage dealing style frame as well, whose powers switch depending on whether you're in day form or in night form, male or female, or yin and yang, I guess. I'm just going to call it an it instead of a female or a male. So the day form will allow you to increase the damage that enemies take, while also buffing your teammates' power strength and stunning your enemies, while also giving them a slight bleed effect. While on the other hand, if you're in the night form, it will allow you to reduce the damage you and your squad take, while also healing them inside of your aura or inside of your radius for every enemy killed. Okay, so it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's kind of a rough idea of what Equinox can do, and it's probably going to take a while to come to grips with what you can do and which side I enjoy more, whether it's the day form or the night form. Right now, I think I prefer day form more, with its number 3 and 4 abilities working really well, but I will of course do a proper video on Equinox in the next few days. Of course, apart from the newest frame that's been added to the game, one of the biggest changes brought to us in update 17 was of course the rework to the parkour system and the removal of coppering from the game. You can no longer slingshot across the room and smack face first into a wall. It feels like a new game in some respects, when you're trying to pull off as many jumps and aim glides as possible throughout a mission. And some of the awesome stuff that you can now do in game is a lot of fun. I mean, aim gliding across a group of enemies with a grenade launcher is absolutely awesome. So now in game, instead of slingshotting, you can double jump, you can bullet jump, which is the kind of forward dash your Warframe does when you kind of slide and jump. You can latch onto walls, you can still wall run, but it kind of looks more like you're bunny hopping along a wall, which I'm not really entirely sure I like. But the aim gliding is, like I said, it's awesome. It's one of the best features of the game. You can now fly, or slowly glide to the ground, I guess. And you can also run on top of zip lines as well. Now, it's definitely going to take a lot of getting used to, especially for veterans of the game that have been playing it for the 2 years or more. But I am absolutely loving it, and DE, in my opinion, have done an absolutely incredible job with the new parkour system. Of course, some of you guys might not like it, but I personally am loving it right now, which is of course just my opinion. Now, the Sharkwing missions or the underwater archering missions are now in game and can be found on the Uranus tileset, which has been given a complete rework and also has some new Grineer enemy types for you and your friends to slaughter aimlessly. Also on the Uranus tileset is the new boss fight with Tilrega, which can get you the parts needed to build Equinox, as he no longer drops the components needed to build Ash. I think they drop from Manix now, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. Now, you also have the option of crafting or buying the new Exilus mod slots or utility mod slots for each of your Warframe. These of course are the utility slots seen beside your aura in your mod loadout screen. Now, it means that you might need to add another former onto your favourite Warframe to fit in some of the utility mods like Rush or a Handspring or any of the new dual stat utility mods that they've added to the game. And personally, I think having the option of adding a Rush or any of these other mods to your Warframe build and not take up actual mod capacity is absolutely awesome. Now, with the update, we also got 5 new weapons. The Kulstar, which is a secondary handheld cluster rocket launcher, which can kill you in the blink of an eye. You need to be really careful with the grenades that come off the initial explosion, because they can kill you as well. Now, the Harpak primary rifle, which is an automatic burst fire harpoon gun with a secondary fire that can pull enemies in towards you. Burst weapons don't really do it for me in the game unless it's the Cerberus, but this does feel like a really powerful gun. Now, the Grattler is another weapon, which is of course an archwing cannon. The Ack and Brunt, which is a sword and board, or an axe and shield, which is Tilrega's custom axe and shield. These look absolutely awesome, they really do, and they deal a nice amount of damage as well. And finally, more Daka than any Warframe can contain. The Twin Grakata secondary weapons. When one Grakata isn't enough, bring 2 for extra firepower. And since they're secondary weapons, it means you can actually bring 3 Grakatas for even more firepower, which is absolutely nuts. It basically means that you can Daka the living shit out of absolutely everything in the mission, and Clan be praised. Now, the new Kubrow armor is also available. It's for appearances only, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. I was kind of hoping for some stats on the armor, but maybe that would have made our Kubrow just too overpowered or too powerful. or maybe I'm just being a really greedy potato. Now the Rostam armour and the Valin armour are both available in the market for Platinum, and they both look really good, but I haven't had a chance to equip them yet because I'm in the middle of incubating the new Kubrow type, which is the Chaser Kubrow. It's basically our Kubrow version of the Carrier Sentinel, which is going to bring us items instead of us having to run around and pick them all up. Now mine is growing up, like I said, as we speak, and I also heard that they have an ability that can disarm enemies, which should also be amazing. Several format will definitely be spent on my Chaser Kubrow if that is the case. Now our light sets also have an incubator upgrade module now available to buy for Platinum, or I think you can also build it in your clan dojo in one of the research labs. The module will allow your Kubrow to have its stasis recovery reduced by 30 minutes. Its stasis recovery can now also be rushed with credits, which is really welcome. This module will also allow your Kubrow to be placed into stasis if it becomes mortally ill. So no more dead Kubrows that need to be chucked out the window of your light set if you forgot to put it in stasis. And the egg incubation period is also reduced by a day with this module. So if you're someone who enjoys breeding Kubrows and selling the imprints, then this is definitely going to be a welcome change for you. Now we've also gotten 4 new capes in game which look absolutely awesome. These are the Isvara Sayandana, the Vanquished Banner, the Nalumbo Sayandana, and the Ubebe Sayandana as well. I can't pronounce that, so I'm not even going to try. Now my favourite out of these 4 capes is definitely the Vanquished Banner, hands down. I think it looks great, but I'm sure you guys will have a different preference. Let me know in the comment section below which of the 4 you prefer. Now we can also hide our weapons visibility. If you don't like seeing clunky weapons on your Warframes back, then you can turn it off so as the weapon is invisible and it won't be clipping through your cape or Sayandana as well. It's a nice option. And we also have the option to aim down sights on weapons like the Quanta or the Quanta Vandal, as well as having the alt fire option bound to another key, which is absolutely great. I hated not being able to aim down sights on certain weapons, and it basically meant that I wouldn't use them simply because of that, regardless of how powerful they were. I know that sounds a little bit petty or a little bit silly, but it's just the kind of player I am. I really did not like not being able to aim down sight. Now there's also some new additions to the Conclave with 3 new maps, the Spire, the Apex and the Pit, as well as new mods. More frames and weapons have also been added to the Conclave roster as well. So if you enjoy running Conclave, then there's some nice changes for you there as well. There is just so much content in Update 17 that it's probably going to take a lot of time to cover it all. I mean, certain weapons have also received buffs. The Lex Prime's base damage has been increased from 85 base damage to 150. It's had its status chance increased from 20 to 25, and its crit chance has also been increased from 20 to 25% as well. So the Lex Prime is even more of a solid pistol than it was before its buff, and definitely one worth building. Now the Supra has a buff of sorts as well, with its reload speed now 3 seconds. Its ammo capacity has been increased to 1080, and its clip capacity has been increased to 180. It's also had its base damage increased from 35 to 45. So the Supra is also a weapon that I'm going to have to revisit and do another video of in the next week or 2, so look forward to that. Now the buff I've been most excited for weapons, of course, was the shotgun buffs. My Heck is now even more of a monster than it was before Update 17. They've increased damage across all shotguns with the exception of the Phage, I believe. Now damage fall off has also been increased for all shotguns. Some shotguns have been given improvements or reductions to reload speeds. Certain shotguns have received improvements to the projectile speed, and killing enemies at close to mid-range will now ragdoll enemies across the map, which is absolutely awesome. Let me tell you, the ragdolling is glorious. Now depending on what your shotgun of choice is, then it might have been buffed or nerfed in some way. The Stun Wraith and the Bow Prime have had reductions in certain areas that make them not as powerful, I guess, as they might have been before, or not as much fun as they might have been before, I guess. The Bow Prime has had its fire rate reduced, its status chance reduced, and its reload increased, which kind of brings it away from its niche of being a really fast firing, high DPS status shotgun that everyone loved. Now it fires slower, it's got lower status, and its reload is a lot slower as well. Now the Stun Wraith now has over a 4-second reload. That's nearly 3 times its original reload. I think it was 1.5 was the original, or 1.4, and now it's 4.1 or something like that. That's pretty damn painful if you enjoyed running with the Stun Wraith. But don't worry, there are other shotgun options like the Dracoon, the Tigris, the Heck and the Sobek. All deal a substantial boost in damage now. The Tigris now deals an insane amount of damage. Its old base damage used to be 200, but now it's been buffed up to 1050. That's without mods on, so you can get insane numbers with this thing. The Hex old base damage was 175, but that's been buffed up to 525. So the killing potential with these shotguns is now unreal, and it definitely makes them a real option in game, so you should definitely try them out. They're a lot of fun. Now the following changes have been made to certain primed Warframes. Rhino Prime's base armor has been increased from 190 to 275. Frost Prime's base shield has been increased from 150 to 175. Nyx Prime's base shield has been increased from 100 to 125. Nyx Prime's base armor has been increased from 15 to 50. Ember Prime's base shield has been increased from 100 to 125. Mags Prime base health has been increased from 75 to 100. And of course, apart from the Warframes, the Worm Prime Sentinel now has 150 base armor. So some of these primed Warframes now have a bit more survivability, and if any of them are your favourite Warframe, then of course it's going to be a welcome change. With stamina now also removed from the game, Chroma's Toxin build now gives a buff to holstering your weapon and to reload speed. So this might be good for weapons like the Vectus Prime and I guess certain shotguns. I don't know, I'll need to properly check it out and finally do a video on the Toxin setup, since it's all I really had left to do with my Chroma, and I held off on the video since we knew stamina was being removed. Now Frost has also been reworked as well, with several changes being made to his abilities. His freeze now does 100% cold proc in an AoE around the target that it hits, so once you hit one target with freeze it will slow enemies that are standing close enough to it. Freeze also now creates a patch of cold on the ground that slows any enemies that enter the area. He now also has a new passive ability. Enemies who melee attack Frost have a chance to be frozen on impact. So any of those lucky prod men or butchers that might get a slap at you have a chance to be frozen solid, which is a good way to turn around and just blow them away. Now his Ice Wave now flares out in a cone instead of in a straight line, so you can hit multiple enemies with this. His ultimate ability Avalanche will now freeze enemies if they survive the initial damage. I can actually see this being used as a really good crowd control option for Frost players if they wanted to go down that road with a lot of range and maybe not so much power strength, and just hope to freeze as many enemies as possible. Survivors of Avalanche will also have their armor debuffed, allowing you to kill them faster. Any who die while frozen will also explode and deal radial damage and a cold proc. So there is some really nice changes to Frost, as you can see, and his snow globe will freeze and push out all enemies that are inside its radius when you cast it. So that can be really good for clearing around a cryopod. If there is a large group of enemies around a cryopod, then all you have to do is cast snow globe and bang, they're automatically pushed to the outside of it. It also no longer has a duration timer, instead it has a health bar, and you can only have 4 active snow globes at any given time. So I'm sure with all of the information that came with update 17, I'm bound to have left something out. But I do plan on flooding you guys with videos over the next week or two with all of these new additions to the buffs and to the new content as well. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button for more Warframe, and as always, thanks very much for watching.